Hey guys, welcome back to another monthly wrap up where I just do wrap ups and just collate them all at different times. This is probably going to be more of a wrap up video than it will be a reading vlog, or at least try to be a reading vlog, just because I haven't been picking up my camera as much recently, and I think I've been reading a lot of things on my Kindle, and I know there's an audiobook I need to listen to. So as a reading vlog it probably wouldn't work. Although tomorrow I might try and go with my camera on a little walk and listen to the audiobook and see if I can just film some bits while I'm walking. But I just don't know what my plans will be tomorrow and how my day will turn out. But anyway, today is Tuesday the 14th of August. Yes, it's the 14th of August. And yeah, this is the first time I'm sitting down to talk about any of the books that I've been reading so far. It's probably a perfect time because it's halfway through the month anyway. So the first book I want to briefly talk about, because I actually want to do a whole full video on this, just because I was kind of disappointed by the book and I want to explain why. So I started reading this book at the end of July and finished it on the 2nd of August, and that book is Held by Michael Donkor. You'll remember me talking about this when I hauled it, just saying I was really excited to talk about it. It was on, I think it's the Observer's like new fiction writers to watch or something like that, and this book seemed really good. It's features London, it features Ghana, so I was really excited by it. I felt like I was really close to it, just because, yeah, I'm from both of those places. And the reason I'm disappointed in the book isn't anything to do with because I couldn't relate to it. It's just because of the direction it took. I just wasn't expecting it. I don't think that from the blurb it was really clear what the book was going to be about. I mean, it was clear what the book was going to be about from the blurb. However, the direction the book took, I was just like, totally wasn't expecting this, and this is so different, and this is just not really what I expected. The short premise of the story, because I really do want to talk about this in greater depth in a later video, is that a house girl in Ghana who is named Belinda, is sort of sent to help the girl of a Ghanaian family in London. The girl has suddenly become really withdrawn and her family can't really figure out why, so they figure that Belinda's sort of, you know, personality but also her sort of determination in life will help sort of spark something in their daughter, whose name is Amma. And as you get into the book you find out sort of why Amma is acting the way she is. For me, that story, I don't want to say it because I don't really want to ruin it. I might when I do my actual in-depth review. For me, I thought Amma's revelation of why she was behaving the way she was just a bit like, what? Like, we're in the 21st century, like, really? And the thing is, I do know African parents can be really, really funny, but I also just kind of thought it's not really a reason for her to be behaving that way, because the way I see it was, it's one aspect of her personality, and I feel like, probably from what I'm saying about, you can guess what I'm talking about, but I feel like even if your parents aren't willing to accept that, she was about 17 or something, like a year, 2 years you'd be out of the house. I don't think it's all of a sudden the need to become like so moody and rude to your parents. Like, it was just really bizarre. Like, obviously I've never been in that situation, but I just felt like the book made out like there was some proper deep secret, and I really thought it was going to be like something really awful had happened to her, and when I found out, it's just like, eh. And then, so Belinda is sent over to London. The family pay for her to study. The family obviously quite well off. Well, not well off, they're doing comfortable, that they're able to sort of bring Belinda, keep her in the house. She doesn't act as a house girl when she's there. All she is like helping sort of befriend their daughter and just trying to shift her mood whilst studying English. And then there's a whole sort of other story with Belinda, and I think that's the story I wasn't expecting. It deals with grief, and sort of some of Belinda's past. For me, I just thought there was nothing there to attach me so badly to Belinda, that when it carried on into her story and, you know, when all the things happened, that I really felt that I cared. I thought the story overall was really random. I personally felt no attachment to the characters. I didn't really care about their experiences, and I just felt like the book was quite cliched in some places. There's also this part in the book where it's a dialogue between Belinda and Amma and these two Jamaican girls on the bus. And I just thought that the writing was so cliched. Like, it was written in the style of the way the Jamaican girls were talking. But I also just thought the whole dialogue and the whole page, it probably runs for about 3 pages, could have been summarized in about 1 paragraph, but I felt like he really wanted to make this point about how he'd taken the time to dissect how they would speak, so therefore it had to be 3 pages long, because it's just a small altercation that doesn't really matter. And yeah, the writing just felt so annoying. I'm like, I've lived in London my whole life and I've had like people, you know, different people speak all the time. One, I thought, do they really speak like this? Like, and also two, it just felt like he was kind of taking the piss out of them. I just didn't really feel there was like a need for how long it went and to sit there and write everything in the exact way that they would say it and stuff like that. And because the girls they were speaking to were also young girls, so they were about 16, it was also like just like taking the mick out of like young 16-year-old girls. I was reading it like, what the fuck? Like, I really, yeah, I did like that bit. Overall, I gave the book a 2 out of 5. I think it had potential and I didn't think it was awful. I think it just didn't meet my expectations. It wasn't what I expected from what I read about it. And yeah, I wouldn't read it again. I wouldn't even recommend it to anyone. And I don't think it sort of does anything in sort of the spirit of African literature or anything like that. But it's not meant to be a serious book. It's not a jokey book either. And it is also his first novel. I know that doesn't really mean anything because loads of people can have their first novel and it's something spectacular. But yeah, I didn't feel too strongly about it. I didn't hate it. I just thought in some places like, wouldn't read it again. But yeah, it was all right. One thing I will say is absolutely love the cover. I love the colours on the cover. I love that blue. I love the head wrap she's wearing. I don't know if that's supposed to be representative of Belinda or whatever, but I absolutely thought the cover was completely beautiful. I am drinking some wine. It's probably about 3 p.m. right now. Oh no, it's 2:15 while I'm filming this. I actually just mainly bought this because I'm making a tomato and chicken risotto, chorizo and chicken risotto with red wine, so that's why I have this, not because I'm like a daytime alcoholic. I also feel like I'm in need of this, or very well deserving of this, because I went on like a little hike. Well, actually it was just a walk, but it was just pissing down with rain. I kept on going. It was really nice. It really cleared my head. Felt so much better on the way back, but then it was just like I'm wet everywhere. I've been walking for ages, longer than I thought I would. So yes, I'm in very much need of this. But anyway, the next book I'm going to talk about is Exit West by Moshin Hamid. I picked this book up as part of the video that I want to do for the Man Booker 2017 list. I started reading this after I finished Hold, and then I finished it on the 7th of August. I wasn't a fan of this book. I think it had a really great concept that I was really excited for. I probably should have known that it wasn't going to explore that concept that much, because the book is actually quite short, and I read it in a hardback, sorry, and you can tell it's quite short. The premise of the book is that there are these 2 characters who are in an unidentified country, which I think for the most part you just know, because also Moshin is a writer from like the Middle East. I'm not exactly sure where he's from, but you just know it's a country sort of in that area, and basically the country is in war, and it's talked about that there are these doors that can lead you into other countries. So it has a very like mystical, like, is it mystery or fantasy feel to it? I don't read a lot of fantasy books, or any rather, so I don't know. So it has that to it. And whilst I knew it wasn't going to be like a fantasy book or anything like that, I thought he would talk more about the books, but the books are the doors. But he doesn't really speak about the doors. It's more like this underhand deal where it's like you pay someone and they know when a door is coming, and then they tell you, and then you turn up. So they end up going through a door and ended up, I think their first stop is a camp, and I think it's Mykonos in Greece, and they stay there for a bit, and then they end up going to London, where they end up in actually a huge mansion in Chelsea, and then other people start coming through the doors, and it's more about how they live and their relationship. So in the beginning of the book they had like just met each other, and then they go through obviously the war, and they get closer and closer, but it's just really hard for both of them to be together because there's loads of rules imposed upon them. You know it's a country in the Middle East because she's wearing the full sort of attire. I'm not sure of the name of it, so I'm not going to butcher it, but just to shield herself, and unless you're married, like men and women can't be seen together and things like that. So they have just begun their relationship when they decide actually they're going to leave. The two characters' names, by the way, sorry, are Nadia and Saeed. So they decide to leave after something really bad happens in Saeed's family, and they decide, like, they're young, they're probably like towards their late 20s, they've got a whole life ahead of them, there's no point in staying in this sort of war-stricken country. So they decide to leave, and like I said, they end up in this mansion in Chelsea, and it's just really about how their relationship goes from there, and also them having to live as refugees in different countries, and what the political sort of situation is in London, and what the government is saying, and all these different things are happening. It's a very topical book. I'm not sure if it was actually published last year, but yeah, it's a very topical book, because I feel like even now, reading it a year later, it's just so important, because it's exactly what is going on, like, everywhere. But it's just the things that they're doing, like cutting off electricity, cutting off water. You're reading it, but you know it's reflecting real life. So it's, yeah, it just makes me feel a bit crap, actually, that I'm reading it and I'm not actively doing anything about any of this. But yeah, it's just the way they speak about them, and the way that their lives develop and their relationship develops, essentially. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a love story, but obviously something like that puts strain on your relationship, in the sense that these were two people who sort of started a relationship under really odd circumstances. Just odd because they were in a country that was at war and they didn't have that much freedom, and then as life goes on and they get to know each other, do they actually want to be with each other? And they have to be in very, very close quarters with each other. Which sometimes I felt like the writer tried to make it sound like, because they were so close to each other, like physically close, that that's sort of what drove them apart. And I feel like when you live with someone, you're still actually physically close to someone. Like, in the sense that these people had to share like a single bed together, but then like people share double beds together. Like, I know it's more of the space issue, but I felt like he really tried to push this thing of, you know, they had to spend every single waking moment together, and that's why their sort of relationship like started to break down. And I was like, not really. So the story goes along that sort of tangent, and it really is how they live their life as refugees. And then we get to the end and we sort of see there is no sort of final conclusion to it. There is no sort of solution to this sort of refugee crisis, because these doors are appearing everywhere. Like, they stay in London for a bit. They stay in London for a really long time. It's actually, I think, the longest place they stay in, and I think they end up going to LA. So it is really just about how refugees are obviously everywhere, but how they're dealt with in the different places, and just how they manage to sort of stumble through their lives and what they do. Now, in terms of the writing, I thought it was really simple. Like, it was weird. Like, it didn't have to be something really lyrical, but I think because I wanted to know more about the doors, I was kind of shocked that it had something as great a concept as the door situation, and then the writing was just so simple and basic. Like, not everything has to be really lyrical, but it was just more like, Nadia and Saeed did this, and then they did this, and then they did that. It was just very straight, like, to the point. It didn't feel like a novel that had a lot of emotion, and therefore you felt really detached from the characters. Like, I didn't really feel sorry for Saeed and Nadia, not for any other reason than I don't think the writer intends to portray them that way to you. You're not intended to feel sorry for them, but then you also don't feel like happy for them. You don't really feel anything for them. You just feel really detached from them. And maybe that was intentional, but I feel like by doing that, and then also writing about it in such a simple way and in such a detached way, overall you're just really detached from the story. You don't come away from the story thinking, I feel so bad for these characters. And maybe that is the intention. So maybe the intention is you don't feel bad for the characters, but you're thinking about what it means to be a refugee in a wider context, and whatever country you're in, how are they treating refugees? Maybe it's that. I don't really know. I haven't read anything more to do with the story. I haven't looked up any reviews or anything to do with that. I just found it very interesting for me. I was just like, this is a situation where it could very much be, yeah, this is awful, but it doesn't feel like that in this story. It does feel bad, but then it doesn't ever feel that bad. So that's really my thoughts about the book. I end up giving it a 2 out of 5, just because, like I said, I didn't come away from it feeling much other than, crap, refugees are actually treated like really badly. But as a story, I didn't come away thinking like, I'm going to take the story away with me forever. And yeah, I just didn't like the fact that the sort of doors weren't explored a little bit more. So this brings me to the book I am currently reading now, and this is actually a reread. So I mentioned in a couple of videos ago that I wanted to start reading books that were already on my shelf so that I could, you know, place them in order of books that I actually really like. Now the other day it struck me that actually I shouldn't be only doing this with the books that I have that are physical copies. Obviously it works out better that way because they are physical copies and they will be displayed on my shelf, but also I'm doing a reread exercise because I want to read books that I like and books that I have learned things from. So I'm currently reading again The Course of Love by Alain, Botton, and I'm really enjoying it just as much as I did the last time. It is such an informative book, and just, yeah, it kind of gets me in the feels because I'm very much a romantic love person, but then experience has very much taught me that actually this is probably why I'm thoroughly disappointed all the time. I just think it's a informative read. Whether you're in a relationship, whether you're not in a relationship, I think it's just a great book. It's partially a novel, it's partially something else because it follows the story of two couples and explains their sort of love life, but then after each sort of like, not even significant moment in their life, because it does focus on bits like when they have an argument and now this, but after like some bits in their life, there's like, you know, this bit in italics where he talks about, I guess, basically the psychology of love and like our different feelings and how when a partner does something, how we feel, and what when we react to something, what we're actually asking our partners for. So it's all that psychological jazz, and it is just very interesting, and it is just such a shame that as human beings we don't often know why we're reacting the way we are. We just know, like, if we have an outburst that we want someone to comfort us, but we can't ask for that because we feel ashamed to ask for that. And it is a shame, at the same time it's just a bit like, dude, if someone's upset, like, how is it not obvious to just comfort them? But it's just topics like that. So I started reading that after I finished Exit West, which I finished about the 14th of, no, I couldn't finish it on 14th because today is the 14th. I think I finished it about the 8th of August. So I'm currently still reading that now. I just haven't had a lot of time over the past week. It's been very super busy for me. But I'm hoping to finish that soon because I'm near the end. And then I'm gonna start listening to an audiobook that I was sent over, and yeah, there's a whole bunch of other books that I need to pick up. So that's currently where I am in terms of the books I'm reading. I will definitely do a full review on Hold. Exit West, don't really feel the need to do any sort of review on it. I will talk about that more in my Man Booker 2017 book video anyway. So yeah, that is all for me for now. I'm gonna go and cook that risotto because I'm looking forward to it so much. And yeah, I will check in with you very soon. Bye. Hey guys, so I didn't actually manage to go for a walk today and film any sort of walking like I said I would. But what I wanted to do was just show the Airbnb where I'm staying because this guy has so many books around, and I thought how fitting for a book lover like me. I have no idea what half these books are apart from the J.D. Salinger Catcher in the Rye. I don't really know any of the other books. I'll show the other side because he has a huge collection of someone named Ian M. Banks. So these are the books from Mr. Ian M. Banks. I'm guessing his genre is sci-fi. At first I thought it might be crime just because of the way the title is printed on the spine, but looking at the actual pictures on the spine, especially this one here, I feel like it's a bit of a sci-fi novel. And also the titles of them kind of make me think that. And then we go over here and there are some more books. Sorry, I'm trying to not get my stuff in the way. And then there are some more elsewhere. So there are some more books on this table here. And then along here where the curtain is, more books. Totally different genre to me. This just must all be kind of, I don't know, travel, sci-fi sort of things. Not a single book that I recognise. But yeah, I just thought it was quite nice and that would show that. Yeah, even more books here. So lovely. Yeah, here's where I'm staying. Also very blurry. Tomato plant. Hey guys! So yesterday Yesterday I would have shown the books around the place that I'm staying in. I'm actually leaving in about an hour's time now, but I did decide to look up what the name of the author was. Well, I knew what it is, but to see what sort of books he wrote. And I've tried sci-fi books. It's very interesting as well. I got to see that he went to uni in Stirling. And the reason why I'm here in Scotland is because I'm going to go to the University of Stirling to do my masters. I haven't really said much about this because this is a book YouTube channel. And once I've sorted everything out, I probably will just sit down and just talk about it in a little bit more. But yeah, it was just nice to see, so I can kind of understand maybe why the guy here has all these books by him. It's probably really nice to have an author, because the guy who's doing this airbnb also went to Stirling University many years ago, as did Mr. Ian M. Banks. So I just thought that was a little interesting fact that I would share with you guys. In terms of reading, so last night I finished the course of love. Well, it was actually about this morning, really, about 1 AM this morning. So yeah, it was actually really nice. I finished the book. I think because I started reading the book last year, so looking at my Goodreads, I started reading it last year in September, and that was the first time I read it, and this time around I started reading it in August. So I've never actually spoke about the book on my channel, but I feel like I don't really want to talk about it because this is only a reread for me. But it's a really great book, and I feel like whether you're single or whether you're in a relationship, it really helps you to understand relationships and sort of romanticism, and why we place a lot on romanticism, and actually how we can counteract that and just sort of be practical. It just really takes you through the course of their marriage and their lives, from when they meet and things like that to having kids. It's at the end of the book where Alain says that like all these years have passed, but it's only now does Rahib, who is the main character in the book, feel like he's ready for marriage. It's just really interesting. I kind of feel like sometimes when you're reading something in a book, things come together in a neat little bow, and I don't know if in real life you can be that detached from your relationship to figure out those emotions, or the lessons that certain things are trying to teach you. And that's obviously just really the difficulty of life, which is probably why books like this exist, which is why counselling exists and all those sorts of things. It was just very interesting for me to see. It's, you know, like I said, it's part novel, part of like a little bit of a self-help book, and I think it's just a really easy read. Just a bit of psychology behind it and things like that. So definitely if you're interested in things like that, I'd say it's worth the read. I definitely want to pick up some other books by him, so I'm going to try and do that. So what I went on to read after, because I was really in a reading mood it seems, was The Sorrows of Young Werther. I spoke about this probably in my currently reading like 2 months ago or something. I hadn't even picked it up since then, but I decided to read it. I'm really enjoying it. I'm like so blown away. I kept on like flicking through the pages because I was like, actually I like this. I think, and I'm going to double check on my Goodreads and put it on the screen below, I started reading this book either last year or the year before. It's not a very long book, it's just I found it really hard to get through. However, this time round, I'm finding it really easy to get through. And I think that's maybe just because as a reader and as a person, I've just grown a little bit more. Before, I had no patience with the book, honestly. And the book is a bit like wallowing. He is really in love with this girl and he really likes her, and it's all blah 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 blah, I love her so much, and you're just a bit like, dude, get a grip. But there are also some really great lines in there, so I just found myself highlighting loads of bits. I haven't finished it yet, so I'm probably going to finish it on the plane because I think I'm about 80% done with it now. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting, the fact that now I actually really liked it. I don't know if the wine was fueling that, but I am actually looking forward to just sitting on the plane and reading that. So yeah, interesting bit of a turn. It's interesting that I've gone from reading a book that's about, you know, how we shouldn't focus on romanticism, to reading a book that's basically all about that. His like dying love for her and how much he can't do anything without her, even though she is now married to someone else. So the book starts off with him being in love with Charlotte, and then Charlotte, I think she's promised to someone or something like that, and it might be that he's also a lower class. Because I read the first half of the book like over a year ago, I have forgotten most of it, and I'm too lazy to go back and read the first bit. I'm not doing that. I might do that after I finish the book and I think that I enjoy it, but I'm not doing that for now. So I think he's of a lower class than she is, so maybe that's why like he can't really be like, oh yeah, I want you. And it's just a series of letters that he's writing to one of his friends, in which he describes like different things to do with Charlotte, and when he gets a job, he's like, he's sort of moved away from like where she is, but he still thinks about her a lot. It really is just him wallowing in his sorrows of his love for this girl. It's actually quite interesting and also quite entertaining in parts. It's not something that I'm actually used to reading. I'm not sure what made me pick this up, but I'm actually really glad that I did. So I will update you on the other end when I finish reading it and let you know my thoughts about it. I'm actually really excited to get through it, because finally a book that would have taken me over a year to read, I finally would have finished it. I'm not a huge fan of like not finishing books. I don't know why this is, and maybe as I come into doing my course and stuff like that, I will have to be kind of brutal with my time and be like, actually I'm not enjoying this book, let me finish it. But I don't know, I think sometimes because when I read a book, in the end I'm like, oh, it wasn't that bad, but I'm like, well, you have to finish it. I just also don't like not finishing things. So yeah, I never would have like, you know, DNF'd it or anything like that. That's just a new term I've learned from BookTube. But yeah, I definitely would have continued to read it, as I have done with a lot of books that are on my Goodreads list. Some books I think I might just DNF though, because I think one of them is like a hardback and I don't even think I have it anymore. So yeah, that is all from me today. I'm not sure if I'm ending this video here or not, but if I am, please don't forget to like this video, comment, subscribe. Feel free to speak to me about any books. What books are you currently reading? Share that with me as well, because I am nearing the end of the books I sort of hauled, so I'm going to be on the lookout for new books.